So you want to buy a house in Australia. Chances are, if you're like most people, and like me, you need a mortgage broker. In this video, I'm going to take you through the 10 essential questions you just have to ask your mortgage broker and explain how the process works. This episode of the podcast is proudly brought to you by BetaShares. BetaShares is one of Australia's leading ETF providers and has a great range of different funds and ETFs you can invest in using your own brokerage account. Everything from global shares, Australian, cybersecurity, you name it. It's all available in the BetaShares lineup. Visit betashares.com.au to learn more and view the list of ETFs and access the product disclosure statements. In this podcast, I'm going to take you through the essentials of using a mortgage broker to help you get into the house that you want to live in. When I say house, I could mean apartment or anything like that. A mortgage broker can help you no matter what type of property you're looking to buy. So firstly, why property? Now, we know because we've done other videos about Australian property being in this kind of structural uptrend. Things seem to be going up in price, and that sounds like a pretty good thing if you can get on the property ladder. Now, as you'll know, we don't talk just about property here at Rask. We talk about everything. But property has a few unique advantages and seriously compelling ways to help you increase your wealth through time. So that's reason number one to consider property. Reason number two would be livability. You've got to live somewhere. So either you're renting, you're rent vesting, or you're an owner-occupier here in Australia. Number three is a sense of pride. And by that I mean owning your own home is actually a pretty wonderful thing. You kind of transform your mindset into, well, maybe I can put a hole in this wall and see what happens. That is a sense of pride, and it does come with a few costs of its own. But trust me, if you are interested in owning property, it is a great feeling once you finally get into one, even if there is a big mortgage that you've got to pay down. So what is a mortgage broker? A mortgage broker is one of the three essential specialists you need in your corner. The three essential specialists, I believe, are a financial advisor, a mortgage broker, and an accountant. I think these three are kind of like your A team. The accountant handles your tax. The financial planner basically is the project manager or the glue between everything that you're doing with money and finances, and your mortgage broker helps you get the loans and the financing. So sometimes mortgage brokers will call loans finance. They'll say, we're going to help you get some finance. Now, mortgage brokers are particularly focused in Australia on property. So that could be residential property, houses, apartments, that type of a thing, or it could even be commercial property, things like warehouses or office spaces like the one that I'm in right now. A key question that I often get asked is, how do you pay a mortgage broker? Unlike accountants and financial advisors, which you tend to pay out of your own pocket, a mortgage broker gets paid by the bank. So when the loan settles, the mortgage broker gets a small clip. As at the time of recording, they get about 0.65% of the loan balance upfront, and then there's a small amount ongoing. So there's a little bit upfront and then a little bit ongoing. And that's called a commission. And I don't think it's actually a bad thing for mortgage broking because it helps people get the right advice and get a better loan typically. So it does add a lot of value. One of the things that comes with that is, one of the questions I'll cover shortly, is just understanding how the mortgage broker might, work with you after the loan has settled. Because if they're still getting paid a commission, you might be able to rely on them for some other things. If you want to learn more about what a mortgage broker does, we've got another video on this, which will help you understand exactly how you can use a mortgage broker, how they're paid, and all that type of thing. We also have a free property course that goes through everything. So check that out if you're interested in buying your first home or even upgrading. So now I'm going to get into the 10 questions and we'll take them one by one. The first question I've got for you to ask your mortgage broker is, how much of a deposit do I need? Most people still believe that you need a 20% deposit to get into the house that you want or for the bank to lend you money. So say, for example, for round figures, we're getting $1 million property. Some people still believe that you need a $200,000 deposit in order to get enough loan to buy that property. The reality is you do not. Banks will lend to you depending on the amount of income you have available and your savings habits. So if you're a really good applicant for a loan, they're more than likely to kind of budge the rules a little bit and help you get in. The reason why we say 20% is because of lender's mortgage insurance. So if you have below 20%, typically the bank will require you to pay for their insurance. That's called lender's mortgage insurance, or LMI. Ask your mortgage broker about this because they can do the calculation to help you understand, yes, at 20%, you're not going to pay LMI. But if your deposit is 15%, maybe you only pay a little bit of LMI. If you get a 10% deposit, maybe there's more LMI to pay. And maybe if you get under 5%, okay, you're going to pay a lot of LMI, but it's still possible. So be sure to check with your mortgage broker just say, how much of a deposit do I need? That will greatly impact the time it takes for you to get into a property. Number 2 is, are there any government incentives I can take advantage of? Your mortgage broker typically operates kind of in a state or in a particular area. They have a lot of clients that might operate in the state of Victoria or Western Australia, for example. And those states can have their own incentives, such as deposit schemes, government guarantees, reduced LMI, first homeowner grants, these types of things. In fact, some mortgage brokers might even point you to federally funded initiatives, things like buying a house under a certain value and allowing you to get in with little to no deposit. A really good mortgage broker will also be aware of your occupation, so your job and what you do, because there are some banks which will lend to lawyers, doctors, accountants, these types of people, nurses, etc., with up to 100% loans, sometimes even higher. So that means effectively no major deposit is needed, maybe just for you to pay for stamp duty or something like that. So a good mortgage broker will help you navigate through those. The third question I want you to ask your mortgage broker is, how can I increase my borrowing power? Typically, you can borrow between 4 and 5 times your annual salary in a mortgage. So say, for example, you earn $100,000 per annum and that's your salary as a PAYG employee. Typically, you would be able to borrow, say, $500,000. Now, those are just rough figures. Your mortgage broker will know for sure. But there may be things that you can do to improve the amount that you can borrow and get into the house that you really want. For example, question number 4, should I pay down my HEX debt and buy now, pay laters? One misconception is that buy now, pay later is not actually considered a loan. Things like Afterpay or Zip are actually pretty tragic when it comes to getting a mortgage. So ask your mortgage broker if they think it's sensible to use some of your savings to pay down those things. I know when I had to get into our first home, my wife paid her HEX debt off just so she could improve her borrowing power. Because HEX debt comes out of your wage automatically, it reduces your annual salary after tax. Therefore, by paying off the HEX debt, her after-tax salary was higher. I hope that makes sense. Your mortgage broker can fill you in on the rest. Number 5, while we're talking about your income, it might be worth mentioning to the mortgage broker what you do and give them a suggestion of where your career might be headed. This will enable them to prepare a bit better for your future circumstances. For example, you might say to them, does it make a difference if I expect my bonuses or my salary to increase a lot in the next few years? Another way you might put this is, does it make a difference if I've got income coming from a side hustle versus my regular salary? For example, you might earn $10,000 or $20,000 a year from a fantastic side hustle. The mortgage broker will be able to determine if that is the best source of your borrowing power, as in, can that particular part of your income allow you to borrow more? Or is it, maybe not the best thing to do? Maybe it's better just to have one high salary and give up that part-time job. They'll be able to help you understand that as well as predict what might come next. Because if you know you're going to get a pay rise, you're going to go from associate to a senior level, you know that next year your income's going to be high and you might be able to borrow more. So the mortgage broker could really do with that intel. One of the questions we should cover before going any further is number 6. Can you tell me about the mortgage broking process and how it works? There is a lot of confusion about how the mortgage broking process actually works. If you're anything like me, you'll be really scared off of what this whole daunting thing of getting this massive amount of money could actually do for you and do to you over the next few months. Mortgage broking processes can range anywhere from a few weeks to quite a few months. So you don't want to leave it to chance and go and try and buy a house or make an offer and not have the financing available. So talk to your mortgage broker about the process and how long it might take for you to get a loan approved. Remember, there are different stages of getting your loan approved, whether it's pre-approval, formal approval, those types of things. Knowing where you're at will give you the confidence to potentially bid more aggressively or offer a more compelling offer to the vendor or current owner of the property you're looking to buy. Number 7 is more about the relationship. Ask your mortgage broker if they will be there to support you when settlement arrives and what their aftercare might be. You see, when settlement actually happens, you typically rely a lot on two different types of people. Your mortgage broker to manage all the banks and the day the money actually transfers, what happens? And number two is the conveyancer or solicitor that you're dealing with. That's like a legal person that helps you actually check to make sure everything is going to happen. And you, the buyer, can talk to the seller of the property through those legal people, and they will make sure that everything happens smoothly. So ask your mortgage broker what that might look like, what you can expect at that time, and secondly, what they might do after you've got your loan settled. This is really important because interest rates fluctuate through time. So you might want your mortgage broker to do something along the lines of regularly check in to make sure you're on a really good rate. I know my mortgage broker here actually does this for me automatically. So I don't need to call them and say, hey, is my rate any good? They'll go and do that for me and let me know in time if I should stay with the current provider or switch to a new provider. With interest rates changing all the time, this is a really good thing for your mortgage broker to keep tabs on for you. Number 8 is, do you need anything from my accountant or financial advisor? This is particularly the case for anyone that might receive a lot of bonuses, or if your income's growing rapidly, or if you run a business, you're a sole trader, a contractor, something like that. If you're in those circumstances, get a hold of your accountant, because chances are if you're self-employed, you'll need 2 years of financials, and the accountant might even need to write a letter to help support the mortgage broker and the bank in making its assessment of your particular financial situation. Number 9 is, can you compare every bank in the market? Most mortgage brokers compare most banks in the market, but not all banks in the market. So, for example, if there were 30 banks, a mortgage broker might be able to compare 20 or 25. And as we know, there are 5 big banks, Macquarie, CBA, Westpac, ANZ, NAB, etc. But then there are so many small and medium-sized banks that also offer compelling interest rates for different types of borrowers. So just getting an understanding of who they can cover is a good idea. But keep in mind, they probably won't cover everyone. If they do, great. But if not, it's not the end of the world. You just want to know that they have enough to choose from to make sure that you're getting a competitive interest rate on your mortgage. Another thing that I might squeeze in here as a bit of a bonus tip is just making sure that you ask your mortgage broker when it comes to this time, do I need an offset account? Do I need a redraw? Do I need extra banking facilities? Do I structure the loan as partially fixed interest rate and partially variable? For example, most people don't know this, but you can actually have half of your mortgage with a variable interest rate and half of it with a fixed interest rate. So your repayments are the same every month. Your mortgage broker will be able to help you out with that. And that's where it comes down to comparing all of the different loans on the market. It's not just the interest rate, but if they have access to all the different banks, they might be able to compare, well, this one comes with 2 offset accounts, which is great for saving. This one comes with an extra transaction account or something like that. So they'll be able to help you out. Number 10 is maybe a little bit left of field. Some mortgage brokers are truly gifted at helping you understand things when your situation gets really complex. For example, if you're a foreign buyer into Australia, or in my case, you're not just a business owner, but you also have different tax structures and different sources of income. We've done another video on different sources of income and how to get rich in Australia. And if you're anything like me, you know that you don't always fit straight into the mold. So what I would consider asking my mortgage broker if I was you, if you have things like a family trust, a company, or maybe a partner or someone like that, is asking them, does it make a difference to you if I was to try and borrow this money through one of my other tax structures, like a trust or a company or something like that? Because sometimes that can have really good implications for you down the line. Now, they might refer you back to a financial planner, which is probably a safe thing for them to do. But your mortgage broker might be able to weigh in there and say, yeah, well, if you do it this way, then you might be able to do that. And you could go and ask your financial planner about X, Y, and Z. I think that's just a great tip. So if I was to come back to you and just give you kind of one of these 10 tips to take right now to your mortgage broker, it would be this. Can you help me understand the process and time it will take to get a loan approved? That is by far the most important thing to consider. Take it from someone who did not give my mortgage broker enough time, and they had to wave a magical wand to actually get me in the property and get it settled. This is a true story, but our actual financing deadline was delayed twice. And the only reason we got into the property was because it was the middle of COVID and the seller had no other option, basically. So we're very grateful for them. But that would be my number one tip, is just understand the mortgage broking process. If you are actively buying in Australia right now, a few things. It can take weeks, sometimes months to get a loan approved. Pre-approval is not the same thing as formal approval, so talk to your mortgage broker about that. And once all that's said and done, I think buying property is a wonderful thing. It actually opens the doors to so many other things like debt recycling or investing in property for lifelong wealth creation. If you think I've missed anything, can you please let me know in the comments section or get in touch with me, because I'd love to know your tips for dealing with a mortgage broker. They are worth their weight in gold. Honestly, if you get a good one, they're amazing. If you want to learn more about property buying, we've covered absolutely everything in our free property course. You can find it on the Rask Education website. That's just at education.rask.com.au. It's a totally free course. We've got over 15 free courses there that you can take advantage of. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Australian Finance Podcast. Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can get daily videos and podcasts on Rask's YouTube channel. Or if you want to enroll in a free course on investing, property, business, money, you name it, you can join over 34,000 other students and enroll in a free course on the Rask website. Simply head to www.rask.com.au and follow the prompts. Thanks for watching this Rask podcast.